Now, more stories, insights, and analysis of Illinois policy and politics. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute. Once again, your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Pat Hughes on this edition of Illinois Rising. And Pat, on the Democrat side of the ledger, the candidates for governor participated in a little candidate forum recently. And all of them, this was organized by Rainbow Push, Jesse Jackson's organization, Shakedown Racket. And when the question was put to them about the recently passed budget, in quotation marks, that includes the massive tax increases we've discussed at length, with no spending reforms to perpetuate the status quo, to give the appearance of change on the outside, to protect continuity on the inside, they all signed on. So, boy, doesn't that provide a inflection point and an opportunity for stark contrast to be presented by Governor Rauner.
It does. And what's interesting to me about Dan is this is what social pressure does to you. You know, you go in front of Rainbow Push, you are with the other four guys, you don't want to look like you're not a left-wing Democrat, so you say this. If I were Chris Kennedy, for example, who is out there on sort of property tax relief, I'd have said, I don't think a 32% tax increase without structural reform was the right thing to do, and moved to the center. That's what I would have done. But he's worried about winning the primary, so he had to do this. As it relates to the general, I think this gives Governor Rauner an opportunity. Governor Rauner vetoed the tax increase. The tax increase got overridden, so it got implemented, and he can blame that on the Democrats and, of course, the feckless 15 that went off and voted for it. And he can now position himself against his opponent as someone who wasn't willing to raise taxes without the structural reforms that were put in place. So now it becomes a good election issue against whoever he runs against. And if I were one of these people, particularly Pritzker or Kennedy, like I mentioned, I would have moved more to the center on this issue.
I wonder if J.B. Pritzker asked for a hot dog, no hamburger, French fries, no onion rings.
You'll get nothing and like it. That's what Jesse Jackson said. You'll get nothing and like it unless you give me $10,000.
Here's the thing. The question was asked by one of the WTTW fungible anchors, WTTW, Wilmette talking to Winnetka. It was asked who supported the progressive income tax, or so who supports a progressive income tax as well. And then, so that means, graduating the state income tax in addition to supporting the raise for everybody. So let's raise it for everybody, 32% personal, 35% corporate, 5 cents a gallon at the pump. And then let's raise it more for some in the future going forward. So now you see where they're going to go if they continue to enjoy majorities in the General Assembly and they get a Democrat governor. They're going to look to amend the Constitution and institute a graduated state income tax. In addition to, I suspect, the other thing that I don't know if it was asked in this forum or not, go after retirement income. Illinois being only one of a few states that doesn't tax retirement income at present.
They're going to tax everything.
So you have to go where the money is. And by the way, where the money really is, middle income families.
Correct. And they're going to get driven out further and further. My real question is, when that question was asked and all 6 men raised their hand to say yes, they would support a progressive tax, was JB able to get his hand like all the way up? Do you have any information on how that worked?
I wasn't present. I don't know. He's probably surrounded by kids, so it may have been hard to see. Also, Chris Kennedy, was he wearing the feather boa that he sported at the Gay Pride Parade? I don't know. I didn't see it. I just read accounts.
I've heard that people gave him compliments on it, and so it might be something he's going to keep going with. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, it's good. And so also, in addition to that, they all agree. I mean, so it's fascinating, the lack of distinction between the candidates on the Dem side in terms of policy. Now, some are positioning themselves differently. JB Spalding buying up all of the Democrat support. And, of course, Democrat Paul's looking at his unlimited funds and saying, well, that's a guy that could fund all of our hopes and dreams politically, so we'll back him, because what's the difference? Where Kennedy, because that has been foreclosed for him now, being the Democrat establishment candidate, the Chicago Democrat candidate, now he's been sort of kind of positioning himself as being independent of Madigan, kind of sort of talking about issues like the unfairness of the property tax system and the confiscatory nature of it. But at the end of the day, they all support tax hikes. They supported the budget, which means they support no spending reforms, nothing structural in nature. They support raising the state's minimum wage, of course, because they're indifferent to the experience in Seattle or Maine or anywhere else. And they're also going to continue to pour more money into failing systems like CPS without reform, and to the exclusion of opportunities for kids to have choice in education with charter schools or private schools, even though the waiting list is some 25,000 long in Chicago, disproportionate minority families trying to get into better schools that are not their neighborhood schools.
This is why this vote and these hand raisings on both the progressive tax and the budget 32% increase tax is a gift to the governor, and the governor needs to ram it through. He needs to stay on that message, because no matter who's coming out of it, they're going to be supportive of these types of tax increases. And as we know from our polling that we've done, Dan, nobody other than the hardcore left are in favor of these types of tax increases.